That is a criminal offense. I mean, that is a criminal offense. Can you put the police maker? I am that. What is it? And very brilliant. Very engaged. The guy is very genius. What's the result? That's one of the most lucrative careers in the market right now. Actually, the human is one of the best. Don't worry. The UNESCO will take care of all the legal scholars of UNESCO. Everything is taken care of. And Mr. Principal, if I may ask, why did you deny us? And Mr. Bolser, what did you do about this? What did you do? He told my daughter's position was position. I mean, admission sport. Yes. Hey, that's a criminal offense. I don't worry, young man. UNESCO will take care of you. UNESCO is here to help. And whatever you did, Mr. Principal and Mr. Bolser, that's a criminal offense. You and you. I want to see a criminal offense. No.
Yes. You look very beautiful. Thank you. I'm actually now employed through Mr. Foundation under UNESCO.
Wow.
Yeah.
UNESCO?
Yes.
UNESCO.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Our office, we thank you because of the support of this group. UNESCO, we love you, we love you and the values you have and what you are doing to the society. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. Thank you, Gata and your team. Let's give them another round of applause. Asante. We are going to the third part of our program, and we are going to have remarks, starting with the DeKUT UNESCO Chair, Professor Julius Zatune. You have the floor. It's open for us for the opening remarks.
You're going cable, yeah? Yeah. Good. Okay. Yeah, we're in business. Fine. Okay. So yeah. Okay, so we are on. Okay. Okay. So, okay, here we are. So I'm going to basically give an overview of what the UNESCO chair is all about and how it's structured. Hopefully, I think we are online. Fine. Okay, so here we are. So what I'm going to do is basically give you an overview of what this chair is all about, so that you get understanding the role and how it's positioned within the university and also within the broader national and even regional spacing, and even the rationale for this chair, because you would ask us. So this is a UNESCO chair, and it's part of the various chairs that UNESCO has established in terms of futures literacy. You know that UNESCO obviously has been at the forefront of literacy. Reading and writing has always been something that was quite important and a capability that you obviously need to be able to even to learn and to solve problems. But beyond that, you have also had other capabilities that you need. Obviously, we know you need to be able to have some skills in ICT, in computer. I remember when I was in university, we used to go to a big building where we had people with white coats. That was then, ICT was seen as something separate. Now everybody has it. But the same way, we are now talking of giving a new kind of literacy, which is called futures literacy. So it's a way of giving you a new capability, because the world it's changing, very dynamic, and therefore you need these kind of capabilities to be able to cope. So it's not like a new discipline, but it's more of helping you to be able to cope and to be able to be more innovative and solve problems. I think we saw some of the students who are here talking about the idea that you need to dare and you need to explore the future. So this part of this chair is supposed to empower you that. So in a way, it's premised on the belief that humanity has a better understanding of why and how we imagine the future. That is a rationale for it. So the community of UNESCO chair is dedicated to exploring the origins and the role of images that futures inspire. So I'm just reading through. So the chair is advancing theory and practice of using the futures. That is also the theory of anticipation, conducting analysis, theoretical research, producing evidence, and yeah. So to be able to drive what you call anticipatory systems. And there are already 37 chairs around the world. In Africa, there are 3 of them. I think it's one in West Africa, one in Southern Africa, and one in East Africa. This is the first chair here. In fact, this was the first chair in Africa that was established. So we are really at the forefront of it. So this chair will contribute to advancing global priorities of UNESCO. Obviously has, and Dr. Ngoto will talk about that, so that we can better respond to society needs. And through capabilities, we'll be able to enhance and enable people to welcome difference of change, and as we keep with essential skills to embrace complexity and with capacity to explore new avenues to respond to the challenges of 21st century. So really, as I said, it's about giving you capabilities to explore the challenges, because we understand we're in a very different world and new challenges. So how do we build that capability? And therefore, this is four things that we really want to do, how we are going to work. So on one hand, we have a mandate of building, capacity building, as I said. So through this, we'll kind of develop manual, develop practice, conduct workshops. In fact, we are going to start one workshop today, in the afternoon and tomorrow. So because workshops are there for two things, to build capacity, but also on the other hand to explore a certain issue so that we can get a better understanding of that issue and what it means, so that we can make better policies, businesses, you can make better decisions, we can do strategy. And therefore, we also want to build a community of futures practitioners. Because part of it is, you want to build these skills, but you want to have a critical mass. Because as I said, this is futures literacy. The same way you wanted to have reading and writing, you also want to have futures literacy. So it's not about the Kimathi or about, it's about how do you build this. And that's why we are coming together with the Kenya National Commission to see how we can work together to build this futures literacy, but also coming together with UNESCO regional office so that we can also become a regional node, start building this capability. And part of that is support policy making, as I said, because policies, we need to be able to embrace change. We need to be able to be ready for the future. So we'll explore certain issues that are important, and one of the issues that we are going to explore from this next workshop is future of industrialization, and also the other coming issue, digitalization. All these are issues changing the way we as our societies are organized. So we hold policy dialogues from that, and also we also disseminate and do what you may call thought pieces and so on. On the other hand, also as a university, obviously it's a discipline that we are building up. There's something called disciplinary participation. So on that hand, we also need to do research and also contribute to that discipline. That's why we are part of the global community. And then we also want, as I said, this is capability. So how to embed futures literacy in curriculum. So that if you're going to do research as a student, you're going to solve a problem. We want to give you that creativity to understand how to solve problems. Because one of the things that you understand, and that is a problem that also experience as a student, is that when you're told to go and solve a problem, write a thesis, write something, people go and struggle and try to understand, how do I write this? And they come up with statement of problems of what. But if you just walk out of the gate, there are 1,000 problems will be solved. 1,000 society problems will be solved. But because we are not imaginative enough, we don't be able to see this as problems. So we go to a research paper, see where it was extended, see how you can extend something. Rather than just walk and talk to people, go to the market, and you get 1,000 problems that you can solve. And they can all be thesis building. And if I was to give some example, what do you call some of the greatest universities in the world, for example, if you think of MIT. MIT came from just solving the problems of textile industry in the Boston area. They were not trying to do big things, benchmark. They just say, let's solve, and they became big. So if you just try to solve your community problems, and you know, Nyeri Kimathi was product of anticipation itself, because the community around here decided, let's create a technical school to solve problems. And that tradition is what you need to continue. So part of that is really to start embedding that problem-solving approach and be able to think and be imaginative. Because first of all is to be imaginative. Because you don't have imagination, you can't solve a problem. If you think of engineering, the first thing about engineering is imagination. Because you imagine, then you innovate, then you solve problems. And those are the second, yes. So we have a local mandate, understanding and seeing work at the door. You need to be able to solve the problems locally, counties, government, national. Again, that's why we are working with KIPRA, because again, we have that national mandate supporting policy making, solving problems, yeah? And also for businesses, because we want businesses to be able to think more creatively. Businesses are going to grow, SMEs. You know, we have big informal sector, we have SMEs. There are very few big companies in Kenya. Some of the biggest companies employ what? 3,000 to 4,000 people. If you think of big companies in the world, they employ 100,000 people, 60,000 people. For you to be able to become that big, you need to be very innovative. You need to be able to strategic thinking. And the first step in doing strategic thinking is doing foresight first. because then you understand where you're going. And then also we said we have a regional and Africa command, because part of us, we are a regional node. So we need to understand how we work with the other organizations in the region, other institutions to build that capacity, and we have been doing that. Actually, we have been working with, and I'll come back to this. And then also we have an international mandate. Again, we're part of the global chair. So, and therefore, in terms of how we are structured, so we want to build partnerships with other learning institutions, with industry bodies. We want to build professional bodies, national and county governments, civil society, other chairs, global chairs. So we have, part of it, we are a network organization, so we need to build this community. And as I said, we want to support, as I said, capacity building, policy making, embedded features, literacy, but also we have a local mandate. So that is what we need to do in terms of how the chair is positioned. And in terms of how it's positioned in the university, as I said, it's not a discipline, so the chair has a cross-cutting mandate. So we work with the hub, innovation hub, we work with the science park, we work with other academic departments, we also work with other partnerships. So the idea is really to be cross-cutting to build capacity across the university. And then in terms of operational structure, we have the chair. We don't, as I say, we don't have a department, so we have affiliated staff. So there are people within various departments that are part of the chair. We also have a community of practice. As we are building a community of practice, people that come part of it, they also become part of this community of practice. And the community of practice is what we are building together with the Kenya National Commission. Because in this community of practice, that then becomes how we drive features literacy nationally. So that is the other thing. Then we also want associates. People, obviously, once we have projects, we'll be doing. And one of the projects we want to start actually hoping to do is to try to see how do you find talent. Because one of the things that we know, the talent is, you go to school, you signal that I'm bright, I have this degree, and so on and so on. We say you are talented and you can get a job. But there are, and as we saw this kit here, there are other people who are bright who miss spaces. So you go to this Juakali, they are very bright people. Because they never went to school, they didn't have school fees, so they are talented people already in this society. But we don't know where they are. The question is, how do you find them? And then how do you nurture them? Because I know that if you didn't go to university, that's the end of you. There should be other ways. So that's one thing that we really want to see how we do that. And then we also have what we call fellows. Because these fellows are people who have been in government, industry, and so on, who we want to associate with. Because a lot of times, even sometimes when we have people who go out there, they get a lot of experience, and then they leave whatever position they were, and then you lose all that knowledge. So we want to become the repository of that knowledge, so that when you are here, you go out there, you can come here and you say, we are going to welcome you. And actually, one of the former governors who will be speaking to us is one of the first fellows that will be able to incorporate in this. So the idea is to become also a think tank, so that we keep knowledge, whatever knowledge, industry, and so on. If you can come here, we can come here, you bring that knowledge, and then later you can also go and give it back out there again. So we are really looking forward to that. So we have been doing workshops. We have done several workshops. We have already been in operation for 1 year. So one workshop we did together with Africa Leagues was trying to reimagine innovation. Because again, as I say, when you think of innovation, what is innovation? We tend to think innovation narrowly as technology, product, not imagining that innovation is much broader. In fact, social innovations tend to be more important, and policy innovations tend to be more important than technology innovations. If you go to any patent office, there are rooms and rooms and rooms of patents. But most patents will never see the light of the day because they don't have a business innovation to follow. They don't have social innovation. They don't have policy innovation that support all this. So the idea is just how do we think of innovation? How do we bring all those innovations together? Because you need all kinds of innovations to work together before an idea becomes a product and changes people's life. Because in the end, we are trying to transform society. We try to transform social life. Technology is just a piece of that. It's the other things that are quite important. So we also look at the use of the future of work. We know future of work is going to be very, very different. We know now there are machines that can do everything. I think some of you students already know you can go to ChatGPT and get your term paper written by a machine. And obviously the people, I think we have a whole community of assignment writers and term paper writers in Kasarani who are global. So they have to rethink their model because they have been doing that for students in the UK and what. So they have a competition in terms of just ChatGPT. So if you have friends who are in that Kasarani area, here they are all living in Kasarani for some reason. But I don't condemn them. I think they are quite innovative people. And today we are going to start working on future of industrialization. together with KIPRA. This is one of the things. So we are going to look at various themes that are important and try to, on the one hand, build capacity, on the other hand also, try to say, okay, these are the issues. This is how we need to think about them. This is how we need to navigate. Because the whole idea is helping the society navigate through a turbulent, changing world that has also opportunities and also pitfalls and dangers. So that's what we are doing. So we are even also working with other universities, even locally. We have also trained people from other universities. So we are creating this community of practice from everyone. So we have also been working, actually, research and policy support, some of the things that I can explain that we did. We have done something for UNIDO, because UNIDO was very keen to understand what happens, because COVID actually brought a lot of interesting things. Because for once, we saw the informal and formal economy come together. Because if people are at home, you are a business, formal business, and you want to deliver, what do? You have to get the guy in the border. That is the informal economy. So we started creating platforms. And this is the challenge with some of the African countries, or many countries, where you have dual economies. You have a formal economy, highly productive, informal economy, not productive. And it's when you start creating channels for them to work together, then you start diffusing ideas and knowledge, and they start moving productivity. So this is one of the things that we were really keen to inform UNIDO on that. So we've done that. South Africa features of industrialization. Again, SADC regional is under, because everybody has a plan to industrialize. We are going to follow the Tiger Miracle or China pathway and so on. But those pathways are gone. We have robots, we have other things. So we have to really think differently about it. So again, and this is what we are going to also explore for Kenya. So South Africa was really keen to understand what is digital and transition to green economy is doing. So again, that as a region, wanted to understand how they can industrialize. So we supported that in terms of how to think. Also, we have been working with Nigeria to support Nigeria. You know, Nigeria has all kinds of challenges, all kinds of opportunities. The biggest economy in Africa, yeah. Nigeria has over 200 million people, yeah. Much as chaotic as it is, and Nigeria just needs to make one musical hit. And they are big stars, because it's already a 200 market. Even if it's chaotic, that works. So again, we are trying to think of how Nigeria can position itself as a leader of Africa. So that was the other thing. And also supported, again, also future of bioeconomies for Africa technology. This was also for East Africa, East and Southern Africa bioeconomy strategy. That one we have also supported, and also Forum for Agriculture Research in Africa. Again, this is about food system and the future. Again, these are all studies that we need to support strategy development. So that's what we have done. So, in terms of what we are going, I just want to just briefly highlight, because we are going to work closely with KIPRA in terms of trying to understand how to navigate the current world, as we talk of. We are going to fourth industrial revolution, green economy, emerging Cold War. We're now in the middle of a new Cold War, if you have not aware of it. Yeah? China is rising, and America says we are going to contain him. China is saying, you're not going to put it in a box. So there's going to be, whether we like it or not, that is emerging. And there are going to be opportunities and so on. Yeah? People are changing. Consumers are changing. Millennials are very, very different from different consumers. People don't care about owning things. Yet, if people don't care, you know, a car lives 97%, 93% of our life of a car is parked. It's only used 7% of the time. So actually, the car industry should not exist, because if people didn't care about owning, people cared about transport. And that's what's happening. People are changing values. Now, the millennials and the other people. So we are going to work on two things, as I say. One is capacity building. So building foresight methodology, building that capacity within, and then also exploring new transformation pathways. Obviously, as Kenya, as we think beyond Vision 2030, which is our current transformation trajectory, we need to start thinking how we move ahead. So this is what we are going to start working on. So that is my presentation for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof, for quite an elaborate remarks on the future literacy laboratory. I think we know more, quite a bit that we didn't know. And from your remarks, I know it attracts quite a number of questions, but I believe that will be well covered when we get to the session in the afternoon. Yeah, so we're going to get to the next speaker, who is Dr. Rose Ngugi, the director, Kenya Institute of Public Policy. I believe you don't have a presentation?
No.
A PowerPoint? Okay.
Good morning, everybody. I want to say thank you very much for allowing KIPRA to participate in this. I want to thank the Vice Chancellor because when we started this, he was in my office at 6 a.m. in the morning so that we can talk about these features. I want to appreciate Dr. Karanja, the representative of the PS, and all protocols observed, yeah? So, when I met with Professor Gatune one time in my office, we were discussing other things. But he's a very good man in terms of saying what he thinks about things. So as he was talking, I was able to capture that element of what he's trying to do, foresight, futures, and the like. And I immediately told him that's actually what is my interest. As far as the institute that I run, the KIPRA, is concerned. And we kept on talking until the time he brought to me Professor Kioni very early in the morning at 6 a.m. so that we can actually digest further what we want to do with this program. So what I want to talk about is why is it so important for an institution like KIPRA to be in this space? And first of all is to say that as an institute, I have brought quite a number of policy analysts. Maybe they can stand again, yeah, so that we can see them, because I want you to check and see that they look like they are in a certain age. Sit down. They are here because they are our future, yeah? And I want them to think about the future, to have a foresight, to anticipate their future. If they think about it now, then they can think about Kenya, then they can think about the world. KIPRA is a government institution established in 1997, and we have 12 functions that we perform, but most importantly as the overall is to strengthen the public policy making process. And in strengthening the public policy making process, there are so many things that you need to tie knots together. And one of them is actually to build capacity for those stakeholders who are involved in the policy process. And we've been doing this. For example, we have a young professionals program which brings in young people. For 1 year, they spend time at KIPRA. We take them through various courses, and we also help them to do practically research, policy research work. So when I look at the young professionals, I see the future, and I think about what is it that we need to strengthen as far as our capacity building activity is concerned. We teach them about simulations, we teach them about forecasts for medium-term elements, but we need them to think bigger. We need them to think bigger, and so we are coming here to gain some knowledge that we can also pass through to our young professionals as we think about the future, and creating in them awareness that they have to anticipate the future that we are building together. In addition, as an institution, we undertake research activities, and in doing so, we are meant actually to provide objective advice to the government. And in our act, it's very clearly spelled out that we need to think about not just the medium term, but we also have to think about the long term. And when we, as an economist, when you think about long term, we are talking about 50 years, 20 years to come. When you think about medium term, maybe we are thinking about 3 years, 5 years. And the kind of frameworks that we have at the Institute at the moment, they can take us just as far in having very good thinking about the future. So in our research work, we are targeting to do many things as we build our strategic plan at the moment. And one of the things that we are trying to implement is what we call a research ecosystem. And in that ecosystem, we want to bring together the evidence providers, that is think tanks, universities, on one hand. We also want to bring in policy makers, policy implementers, whether at the national level, at the county level. And we also want to bring in the young ones who are joining to understand the policy-making process, that is university students and the like. And in that platform then, we need to build skills. And for us to build skills, we need then to have adequate tools. And one of the tools that we actually don't have at the moment is, for example, the Foresight Futures that would help us as we brainstorm stakeholders. We need to brainstorm with something that's guiding us in the future. So that's the kind of a thing that we are looking at with our research going forward. In addition, I would say that we want to build our young ones. So last year, we got the board approved for us engagement of fellows and associates, and also to have mentors. I'm very happy that the former governor of Laikipia is a fellow here. Governor, we can also give you a fellowship in our institution so that you can teach us in practical terms how to do policy at that level. So we have all these dreams that we want to see them come true with our new strategic plan, which we'll be launching very soon. And therefore, we are taking this opportunity to see the tools that would make a difference for Kipra in the next 5 years, or even going forward in supporting the government agenda as far as development is concerned. The last element I want to talk about is related to research is our networking and engagement. And as an institute, we are expected, for example, to organize symposia, to organize conferences. And last time when I met with the professor, when I was here, and we started talking, and he mentioned, the futures of industrialization. And I said, Professor, you have actually helped me, because I've been thinking about the next conference, how we shall engage. And the only word I have is industrialization. But now I have a 3-word sentence, futures of industrialization. So I hope you have not patented it, yeah? So because you are going to take it as our topic for the next conference. So what we normally do with the conference is that as an institution, we do what we call Kipra-wide survey. And the Kipra-wide survey, we come up with a theme. And from that theme, we not only do research internally, but we also have call for papers. And therefore, we bring in others. And we have the young professionals, and we let them do research in the context of that theme. And as we go to the conference, we again bring in stakeholders in the context of the theme that has been selected. So you can see that through this platform, we can actually do a lot. We can actually collaborate with the chair of UNESCO at Dedan Kimathi, and we can also collaborate with the university in this. So for me is to say that, is to thank you very much for agreeing that we can be part and parcel of this work. And I look forward to a very good collaboration with the UNESCO chair. I understand you'll be there for 4 years initially, and we are ready to support you as you support our institution. So it will be a win-win situation for both of us. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Daktari, for enlightening us about the KIPRA, the law that you pray. Yeah. So we are going to get to the next speaker from UNESCO. I think represented by Dr. Joel. So kindly, Dr. Joel.
Thank you very much, MC, Vice Chancellor, Professor Kioni, my sister, the CEO of KIPRA, former Governor, Honorable Nyeri.The, the representative of the PS, Dr. Karanja, the DVC, Madam Magiri, and distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and DVC, Professor Mushiri, that is the name I was looking for. It's my brother. I keep on forgetting, really. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, my name is Joel Ongoto. I am the Acting Deputy Secretary General in charge of Research, Partnership, and Resource Mobilization at the Commission for UNESCO here in Kenya, in Nairobi. We are based at the National Bank building in the 16th, 15th, and 14th floor along Harambee Avenue. I'm representing my boss, the Secretary General, Dr. Evangeline Njoka. She could have really wished to be here, Prof. Vice Chancellor, but she's engaged in another activity. So she requested that I represent her during this launch. So allow me on behalf of the Secretary General to congratulate the university for being the first ever university around this region to get this UNESCO chair on future literacy. It's a big achievement, and please clap for the university. That is why we are here this morning. I have worked with the chair, Professor Gatune, wonderful gentleman. Madam CEO KIPRA has said it. I don't know where he is. I can't even see him here. I don't know whether he has gone out. Professor Gatune is the one who linked me to Professor Kioni before COVID. No, that time COVID had started, Prof, you recall, and we were talking virtually on all this. That time there was no Zoom. I think there was Google Meet. The university has also its online platform, and I like it. And congratulations to the university. We discussed about having this chair registered by UNESCO. UNESCO chairs are done by the Director General, Madame Azolé in Paris. She's based in Paris. As a secretariat, at the national level, we submit the proposals to UNESCO. Then UNESCO looks at various parameters, whether the chair addresses the UNESCO areas of competence, what problem you want to solve at the community level in Kenya and the regional level, and many other conditions, and whether it is sustainable, what proposals are you putting there. Quite a number of universities' proposals are rejected, ladies and gentlemen, globally. It doesn't matter whether you're a top-notch professor in your area, but the proposal really must touch what UNESCO stands for in its area of sustainable, what UNESCO does in sustainable development and peace, and the rest is history. I don't want to go back, and later UNESCO gave this chair to Dedan Kimathi, and we were very happy. And this launch really, and the strategic plan that has been developed and putting together the stakeholders, as Professor Gatune has said, to do capacity building in this area of future literacy is so wonderful for us, and it's emotional, and getting state agencies like KIPRA to get involved, and the various professionals across various sectors in our great country. It is so touching. So allow me, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Secretary General, for those of you who have been interacting with UNESCO for the very first time, to say something about UNESCO and what is this National Commission for UNESCO, what is this link to future literacy, and why we are here this morning. You may know that UNESCO is a UN agency. There's no question about it. It's an intellectual organization of the UN, and it was established in 1945, shortly after the Second World War, where many people lost their lives. It's documented in some books that over 6 million Jewish people lost their lives, and many others across the world, even in Europe, even in Africa. The founding fathers then shortly decided that to prevent war, you have to touch the minds. And in the constitution that established UNESCO, it is documented in the preamble that since wars begin in the minds of men, that time it means both men and women, it is in these minds that defenses of peace must be constructed. And for sure, UNESCO then came up with 5 programs, that is education, the natural science, the social and human sciences, culture and communication and information, to use these programs as carriers of peace and to promote sustainable development. Because without peace, ladies and gentlemen, there can never be development. Economists in the room, you know, and I've seen quite a number of policy analysts. And in development, you know, economists track development, and they will tell you whether we are making progress or we are going backwards. And for sure, we are happy that Kenya is a middle lower income country. We want to be a first world country by 2030, and it's doable. And the governor is here, former governor, he has great ideas on how we can achieve this. I have been following what Governor Nyeri, right from the time you were the assistant minister in industrialization, you have great ideas, and having this theme of future industrialization, what better person can we have this morning? And please clap for the governor to share with us these ideas on future of industrialization. And I'm glad the CEO Kipra has said that it could be next time that will be your theme. Could be Professor Gatune need to patent this one. So then your policy analysts can look for another theme. But we'll allow futures and industrialization, and it could be something from the discipline of economics. Ladies and gentlemen, I didn't want to take a lot of time because really this is not our day. I know our colleagues from the regional office for Eastern Africa, UNESCO regional office for Eastern Africa, Yugi Ngandu, who is the program specialist for social and human sciences, who has always supported this chair right from the beginning, who evaluated it positively and said Kenya needs this chair. He's online and following very keenly. Professor Hubert Gissen, who is the director of UNESCO regional office, got your invitation, Vice Chancellor, but he's engaged in another activity. So I will combine the two, both the UNESCO regional office and the Commission for UNESCO. But I know our sister Christine, who heads the Future Literacy Desk at the UNESCO headquarters, whom I was privileged to meet sometime last year in Paris, will address this honorable forum in the afternoon. So, ladies and gentlemen, what is Kenya's link to UNESCO? We joined UNESCO in 1964, shortly after we became independent as member state number 73. UNESCO is a member state-driven organization. There are 193 member states of UNESCO, and we have an ambassador in Paris appointed by the president. UNESCO is a multilateral organization. It's member state-driven. Kenya has a big voice, and we have equal rights when we elect the Director General. And we are members of the UNESCO Executive Board. And currently Kenya is represented by Professor Julius Kipkemboi, who is a DVC at the New University of Kaimosi in Western Kenya. How does UNESCO work? When Kenya joined UNESCO in 1964, in the constitution that establishes this great organization, And I was glad the young people here know so much about UNESCO, even better than my colleagues who are here. George, please say hi to the audience. He's in research. Dr. Kasula Patrick, I don't know, yeah, he's there at the back. He's a Deputy Director in Research Consultancy. And Mercy Komen, yeah, she's also an officer in the department, because we know that the future belongs to the youth. So, ladies and gentlemen, in this, when we joined, and this is very important, UNESCO demands that all member states of UNESCO, 193 of them, must establish national commissions for UNESCO. And what is our work? We have 14 functions, Madam CEO. You have 7. We have an act of parliament, by the way, passed by the Honorable Parliament. I think that time, 2012, during the Honorable Mwai Kibaki's time, because the Honorable Mwai Kibaki comes from this region. He understood you cannot believe it. He was a top intellectual. When the act went to his cabinet, he just quickly said, let it be a state corporation. Because of the multidisciplinary nature of this great organization. We say UNESCO is an elephant. There is virtually every expert, every discipline will find itself a space within this great family. The constitution that establishes it obligates member states to have this commission for UNESCO. Our work is liaison. When member states, ministries, the agencies of government like KIPRA, civil society organizations, experts of all shades, professors, and individuals interested in this UNESCO, many areas of UNESCO competence, when they join the organization like this morning to support the chair, that's what makes us happy. It means we have achieved the objectives that really created us. Because there are many functions, but one of the functions we play is liaison, to ensure that UNESCO shines in a member state. And our work is for Kenyans, not for the international community. So when Kenya benefits maximally from UNESCO, to have a UNESCO chair like this, we have quite a number of chairs, by the way, in many universities. Egerton has a UNESCO chair on bioethics. University of Nairobi has a UNESCO chair for women and sustainable development, gender-related issues, chaired by Professor Winnie Mitula in the department of this Institute for Development Studies at the University of Nairobi, and on and on. Kenyatta University has a chair on education and sustainable development. Embu as a chair, I believe, University of Embu, Chuka. And the more chairs we have in all these disciplines, that also makes us very happy. Moi University has a chair also on youth and entrepreneurship. If you're interested in having even another chair here, to compete with Professor Gatune in a different area, not future literacy, we'll gladly support. And working with the department of Dr. Karanja, that is in charge of universities and research, we are happy. So what is the work of the chair, really? The work of the chair is to, and Gatune said it, Prof. Gatune said it is reaching out to the community, solving problems, ensuring that the problems you want to solve are sustainable, and really breaking the ivory tower thing. And Professor Kioni, for doing this, we are really happy, ensuring that the community, the university gets to the community and serves Kenya better, not just in the lecture rooms. Lastly, ladies and gentlemen, the young people here kept on saying, oh, UNESCO to do this, UNESCO to do this. UNESCO has 5 main functions, and I think that is what I will finish with. So then I sit down, so then I can leave the Vice Chancellor and our chief guest, with the PS, Madam Inyangala, represented by Dr. Karanja, to say his remarks. UNESCO, one of the functions is a laboratory of ideas. UNESCO has quite great ideas like this one, future literacy. Future literacy is the greatest skill you can ever have going forward. Not literacy. Literacy is how to read and write, and future literacy. And I have no doubt in my mind that Professor Gatune will do it well with his great team. The other function of UNESCO is capacity building. And capacity building, because UNESCO believes that without capacity building, it doesn't matter the top policy analysts you can ever employ with A's produced by these great minds here, and what Professor Kioni is doing with his team. You have to build these capacities to be able to get the maximum output. And UNESCO is also a capacity builder. It's also a standard setter. Because being a global institution, it gives us quite a number of standard setting instruments. And you've heard about conventions and agreements. And there is a lot of politics at UNESCO, by the way. Everything is politics at the global level. Education is politics. Natural science and biodiversity is politics. And I think I leave it to hear, Governor, you will unpack all that. Culture is politics. Communication and information is politics. Because last year I was privileged, ladies and gentlemen, in the last UNESCO General Conference, to chair the Commission for Social and Human Sciences, where issues of future literacy are prosecuted. And we passed the first ever standard setting for recommendation on intelligence. And Professor Gatune talked about it. You see, currently, it could be the Vice Chancellor has been investing on Tantin and I authenticate, subscribing to all these softwares to tell professors that this work has been pressurized. Using the chat GPT, you will not find plagiarism. It gives you machine learning, it gives you the best paper. And sometimes I like now work that has a lot of errors, by the way, because it shows that this work is written by a human brain. If you read work that is 100% perfect, try to put questions. That is a pot, it is artificial intelligence. That's where the world has reached. So are you going to subscribe to Tantin going forward? Future literacy. That's why we have this. And on and on. So UNESCO is a standard setter. It passes conventions. There are quite a number of conventions, a number of agreements in all the 5 areas of UNESCO competence. We have ratified quite a number of them. Like one of the most ratified convention in UNESCO history is the Convention Against Doping in Sport. And to ratify this and pass these standard setting instruments, it's a lot of politics. And Parliament, in its wisdom, in 2012, I think, Honorable Ndiritu, you were there then, you passed the Treaties Act, which now stopped government executives from going to European capitals and ratifying conventions. It is not a walk in the park nowadays to ratify a convention. You require parliamentary approval. The cabinet has to approve and all that. But that convention is ratified. We have ratified quite a number of conventions in culture. And when you ratify a convention, which is a standard setting instrument, by the way, it opens a lot of opportunities for a member state. Funding, like now we can access the fund for fighting doping, which is run by UNESCO. And that is how ADAC, the Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya, was established. For those of you who follow this global politics of doping in sport. In culture, quite a number. I will list endless conventions and standard setting instruments which Kenya has ratified and others which are not ratified. But there are some which you don't ratify, you just adopt to drive your policies, to drive your regulations and laws. Like a recommendation. A recommendation, you just adopt it and report. A declaration, you don't report, it is not binding. So those are standard setting instruments. And there are quite a number in all these disciplines, like the recommendations on artificial intelligence, which we adopted 2 years ago. I don't want to take a lot of time. The other function of UNESCO is a clearing house of information. And because of the clearing house of information, UNESCO has a lot of information, including download the book on future literacy, policy analyst. It's there, edited by Real Miller. It's available. You could just Google it. A lot of information is available in every discipline. So clearing of house of information. And because of that, we have a journal run by Dr. Kasula there at the back. We publish research outputs for free, so long as it's an area of competence of UNESCO. And you'll always find something, and we do it for free. Our professors here, you can be our reviewers of this. Dr. Kasula will show you how. We don't pay a lot of money. Sometimes people review for free. Sometimes it's more of associating with us. There are other benefits you will get by publishing in this, our NatCom journal. And lastly, the last function is a catalyst for international cooperation. So international cooperation, no country can say it can succeed alone. Professor Gatune gave the example of China. When China opened up to the rest of the world, that's when it made it. We are now talking about the fourth industrial revolution. And many professors here of engineering know that how you used to teach how to industrialize. I wish I had time to participate in the discussions. I could have learned a lot. So the questions of the future industrialization. How are we going to reflog Europe? Because our dream is to also to be like the West, where we have wonderful roads, wonderful hospitals, wonderful schools, a great university like this one. The last time I was in this university, I came, Professor Kioni, you were not there, Professor Gatune took me around, and I went back to Nairobi. You know, some of us, my age mates have children who are now supposed to join university. Then I told this guy, he wanted his daughter to do mechanical engineering. I told him, I've been to the University of Nairobi. I was at Moi University. When I went to Dedan Kimathi, DeKUT, that is the best university if you really want the child to learn engineering. And then the guy said, oh, you know, it is very far away from Nairobi. That is, I don't know how we are going to change the mindset. Like the way the MIT example that Professor Gatune shared. We want Kenyans to come here and learn engineering. This is I was convinced beyond doubt, Prof. You have the best engineering school in the country because of the infrastructure and the commitment and the machines that you have for this university. Whether it's civil, mechanical, or electrical and telecommunications. I was convinced. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me leave it here. It's not my day. I can talk forever. So let me let me stop here and thank you for listening.
For your enlightening remarks on UNESCO. Now we are going to get to the next session, and I will kindly invite our Vice Chancellor to give his remark and handle the rest part of the program. Buona Vice.
Thank you. So thank you very much. Our guests, yes. Yeah, we have our chief guest here, Dr. Karaja, representing the Principal Secretary, Dr. Inyangra, who is out of the country. That's why he sent Karanja to represent her. We have Dr. Joel Ogod. Thank you for what you have shared with us. And probably I'll talk a little more about what you have also been doing with us. We have Professor Hubert, who is not for this meeting, but we did through the expressed to us that online and a very good now partner, Dr. Rose Goge, Executive Director of the second time. She was here in February, and she spent on how to prepare for our. We really appreciate it. And we also have other people who have not been introduced. I think it's important to introduce them. Besides, of course, our very good friend and partner also, former governor, Nyeri, and he's not just a former governor, he's former assistant minister. He also was a member of parliament, and he's worked with International Finance Corporation on many projects, so he has a lot of experience to share with us. I will also say a little bit more about him later on, and about what we are doing with him. We have a very important partnership also. We have Engineer Karani Jero, and he's one of our partners, and Engineer Karani Jero is the Director Infrastructure at MCEA for Infrastructure, Development, Technology, and Innovation. We have a special partnership with him, and he's here partly because of the work that has already been done through the Futures literacy workshops. Dr. Gatune has trained some of our staff, and through that staff there is engagement. One of the beneficiaries of that training is Dr. Rosemary Kagondu, and she's been working very closely with MCEA. And MCEA, for that reason, is also a partner. And through MCEA, to bring, I don't know, there's hundreds of thousands of enterprises, which, of course, are part of the transformation we are talking about. We also have Professor Hamasi. She's not been introduced, maybe because she's also one of our staff, but she represents Kenya Advanced Institute of Science and Technology. And this is an institution that is actually in the making. It's a graduate-only institution. It's going to focus on technology. It's going to be in Konza Technopolis. I don't know whether, yeah, I think it is important to also continually share what Kenya ICE is doing, because it's supposed to engage very strongly with the government. And one of the challenges we have, Dr. Karanja, is to figure out what mechanisms or what platforms do we have for Kenya ICE to actually engage with government. This is something we can talk about. But I'll mention just one thing, because it's relevant to the Futures literacy. That, for example, we are looking at the priority projects, and we have decided to prioritize the nuclear engineering program. We've talked about this because it's a big issue when it comes to the energy. So how do you then engage with government and with other partners to realize the goal of nuclear engineering and having nuclear power plants in this country? Then we have also my representation from Konza and Mr. Hilary. Where is Hilary? Yeah, Hilary is at the back there. Hilary Nyadua, he's with Konza, and we are working again very closely with Konza. We have a number of partnerships that we continue to do together, including an upcoming workshop which is going to be in June. Yeah, June, just a few, 12 or so weeks from now. We have Ms. Betty Brenshaw here from VF Consulting, and I think she's one of the graduates from some of the workshops. Is that correct? Of the Futures literacy workshop. And I don't know whether I have left anybody out of that list. But then, of course, we have we have the team. We've recognized, of course, but we also have the team that is from Kipra. And I wish you were introduced by name, and probably, because it's very important, you're all policy analysts, you need to link up with the people on this side. So I don't mind giving you the mic so that they can introduce themselves by name, because After that, you can take with you 10 students each to be helping you in your work. Please.
Good morning. I'm Adan Shibir. I'm a senior policy analyst at KIPRA in the Private Sector Development Department, where we look at issues of industrialization, financial sector development, among other issues. Thank you.
Okay, good morning. My name is Daniel Omanyo. I'm a policy analyst in the macroeconomics department, where there we look at the economy as a whole, looking at the fiscal side, the monetary side, and all government policies. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Julie, a policy analyst in the governance department. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Melap Sitati. I'm a policy analyst in the social sector department. We look at among others. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Helen Chimnyongwe, a policy analyst at the macroeconomics department. Very much interested when it comes to issues of forecasting. As it is right now, we still do medium term, but very excited about now looking at the future. And that's the reason why we're here. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Joshua Leichena. I am a senior policy analyst in the productive sector department. Productive sector department deals with issues to do with agriculture, food systems, climate change, environment and natural resources. I'm also a member of the team that is doing CGE, and I think futures will be one of the areas we'll be looking with as we continue collaborating with the Dedan Kimathi University. And there are very many other modeling that we are doing and the forecasting, and I believe this is the right forum to be able to get knowledge on the other part of the modeling. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I single out that particular group because they informed the organization of this launch, that we would have the launch and then we would have a workshop. Then we have our members of Senate. I will not introduce them individually because of time, but a lot of the people seated on this side are senators, either directors of centers, directors of departments, or institutes, chairpersons of departments, deans, and so on. So we are happy that you are here. But we also have, as one of our special units, DeKUTers. You could be upstanding Dr. Sang. This is our private company. This is Dedan Kimathi University Enterprises. And we don't have many students, but we have student leadership. Could be upstanding, is represented here. And again, thank you very much. This is the DeKUT leaders, and led by Mr. Kim Tai. They are important because they bridge what we are doing here with the student community. Some of the students are following online. So it's of course a little tricky these days because of the very busy and tight schedules that our students have had to follow. But this message is continually being communicated. Now, I don't have to introduce Dr. Gatune, but he's the main reason that we are here. And so with those remarks, good morning. Yeah? Now, before I ask Dr. Karanja to come and make the remarks on behalf of the peers, I will ask Honorable Delito to make some remarks. I will also ask them to make one or two remarks just as a representation. And I also forgot a good colleague from Embu, University of Embu, Dr. Moganka. Welcome. We work in partnership, and we have actually a network of universities in this region where we are trying to work together to develop entrepreneurial universities. And Embu, of course, has actually been part of that team and very active member of that team. So I'll ask Mr. Honorable Dirito to come over. He make a few remarks, but he also talked to the workshop later on in the afternoon, there's a special session for that. But given that he's here, and given the kind of partnership that we actually have had so far, through him, when he was governor of Laikipia, we had very many people from Laikipia attending the Futures Literacy workshops organized by Dr. Gatune. And we also have a number of projects which speak to the work of the chair. So I would like him to just say one or two remarks with that regard. Then you have Engineer Karani. Then I'll also make a few more comments. So I'm giving you my time.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Vice Chancellor. Good before lunch. I'm not sure if it's afternoon already. Allow me to write on the protocols as already established by the Vice Chancellor and the speakers before. My name is Nyeri.The, and perhaps just to introduce myself a little bit, I am a practicing politician. If I know that you may not necessarily associate that with people who are inside an institution of learning like this one. But I want to just say, political leaders are more than just perhaps what you see on television when we are on podiums, and sometimes that brings a bit of disrepute to our field of work. Before I was governor of Laikipia, I was in fact a member of parliament and an assistant minister. And before that, I used to work for the IFC, supporting private sector development across the continent. With supporting individual businesses to do better business planning and to raise properly structured money in order to take their ideas into fruition. Then I thought, okay, why can't I do it more wholesale? So I went towards the financial sector and began to answer questions like, how can we make it possible for African companies to issue corporate bonds? And created programs to do so. I began to try and answer questions like, why are we having so few mortgages? And we thought we had some answers. It is still work in progress. I think there's something like 30,000 mortgages in total, proper housing mortgages in Kenya. And you should think there ought to be 2, 3, 4, 5 million. And working on questions of what can we do to ensure that small businesses, particularly in engineering and other spaces, are able to attract well-structured money so that they can, again, take ideas, innovation into production. Then I thought, well, look, maybe it is that the people on the other side, on the policy side, perhaps they don't understand what we are talking about. So I thought, okay, let me go on that side and see if I can change something. That is how I went to become a member of parliament. So all of this is work in progress. How did I become a fellow here at DeKUT last year? Well, when the Vice Chancellor first asked me, I smiled inwardly because of something personal that had happened to me in 2017. We were in a room like this with other aspirants for political office. And when I spoke, I said, "Do you see some fellows in the room?" Now, one guy was really particularly upset. He thought the word fellow was an insult. So when the Vice Chancellor asked me, "Would you like to be a fellow?" I was laughing. I didn't tell him why, because I remember that incident of this guy. But more seriously, because of the work that we were doing with the university already, and in the afternoon, I'll speak a bit deeper into what it is. Allow me at this point to highlight 3 things that we were doing and are still doing with the university. First of all, when I became governor, but this was also obvious to me when I was serving as an assistant minister, government, or when we say the annual budget of government is in two parts: salaries, wages, petrol, and so on, which we call recurrent. But there's a thing we call development. That budget called development is a series, hundreds, thousands of projects. Most of them are tiny, some are a bit bigger. And how well or we do or don't in implementing those thousands upon thousands of small projects is what makes a difference. So when I came, I realized that perhaps there was a gap there. That, yeah, we have all these very educated people, you know, with PhDs and with masters and first degrees. Of course, a few of us there in my public service were about 3,000, of which 1,800 were full-time. But I realized a couple of us had not quite been to school, but we can discuss that another time. So the question became, how can we do better in implementing these projects? And, you know, I approached the university to speak about this particular question, and the university responded, in my view, in a very unique way, in structuring us, you know, which then eventually became a postgraduate diploma in project management. And I think that is going on now to become a master's in project management. And we had 139 students who were going through that program. And last year, I think something like 93 of them graduated, which was fantastic. I think, clap for the university. And, yeah. The second thing that happened is, remember what I've told you about my history with small businesses, finding the money and so on. But one of the things that businesses need is knowledge. Now, when you think about a small business, they may not be able to employ an engineer, for example. And, you know, government has responded in different ways. I'm glad MSEA is here. We've responded in different ways going back when KIE and other platforms where you could provide certain skills that were not available to the individual business. So this was, of course, the case in Laikipia. Again, I approached the university and I said, well, can you give me a few or many engineers that we can then go with to perhaps we'll talk briefly about two particular engineering companies, tiny ones, here in Laikipia. One is making tuk-tuks in Nyahururu. The other one is making you know, one-person level grain dryers, but also industrial scale grain dryers that can do 10 tons per hour, which is completely unheard of. So we'll go a little bit deeper in the afternoon into what we are doing with the university about that. Did I say 3? 2. So let me stop there then, so that I keep my promise. we have been doing a lot of things with the university. So I was extremely delighted and privileged to be asked to be the first fellow of this chair. Yeah, I'm very, very happy. Of course, you know, my colleagues, for example, on the policy side, after all, you see, policy analysts, for who is your customer? I think it's people on my side who are in offices, who have to learn governments, and you're telling them what works and what doesn't work. Now, when many of my colleagues, they say, okay, are you teaching? Tell us more. What does it involve, this being a fellow at a university? So it's a very exciting thing for me. And I'll be saying a bit more when I describe the things that we're doing on the engineering side, on the project management side, and so on. My last point, mainly to our good friends, because the CEO asked, you know, should I want to be a fellow at KIPRA? You know, perhaps at tea, she and I can talk about that. But one question for KIPRA. Because we're talking about, you know, industrialization. And it is a space that we need to address senior leadership and managers in government about where the opportunities are but also, I guess, where the hindrances are. And I'll just give you one particular example. When we were now, the university has provided us with engineers. We've gone to the tuk-tuk, they're called the Sagak Tech, and we're there. We want the tuk-tuk, obviously, certified, so that it is certified to be on the Kenyan roads. Now that process, at the end of it, is the National Safety and Transport Authority, NTSA, which will issue you a logbook. But that is because the Kenya Bureau of Standards will say, yeah, this is a unit that is okay to be on the Kenyan roads. And for that to happen is because KEBS has relied on the chief mechanical engineer who has tested this unit, with nearly 500 parameters to see if in fact it can be declared roadworthy and safe to be on the Kenyan roads. So sounds easy peasy, so off we go. Except KEBS, halfway through the journey, KEBS said that, well, we were not meeting, or we needed to meet homologation. And I know all of you, many of you are PhDs and you've been in industry for, what is homologation? Do you know? I mean, if you know what is homologation, please put up your hand. Yeah? Now, so you can imagine, this guy, his name is Jogu. He's from Nyeri. Yeah? And he's being told, you need homolocation. So this guy, and remember what I told you about the guy who thought being called a fellow is to be insulted. How was Jogu to react to this news? That you need homologation. It required the PS, Professor Mariga, to chair a meeting of which I was present, so that the KEBS could come, chief mechanical engineer could come, the county government of Laikipia could come, Jogu and the other villagers could come, so that we could figure out what is homologation. Now, homologation is Kenya Standard 2717, which is a standard accepted globally between us and, for example, European nations and North American nations. So that if KEBS says this thing is built to certain standards, then it is acceptable in London and New York. So of course I said to KEBS, but our tuk-tuk is for Nyahururu. As a matter of fact, once we get to Olkalao, we don't want to go beyond. Yeah, so why are you subjecting us to New York and London standards? Because it's a tuk-tuk to move potatoes from one corner to the other. We are not claiming it is a Lamborghini or I don't know what. So after a lot of debate, ultimately we agreed to use Kenya Standard 1515, which is what all the other imported vehicles and these noisy tuk-tuks from India and China are using. A long story to say, the policy analysts need to go deeper, because some of the things we have set up ourselves to do are actually shooting ourselves in the foot. And we who are sitting in decisions need to be reminded and shown where the thing is not working. And we can go further into that in the afternoon. So thank you very much indeed. I've already taken up too much of the Vice Chancellor's time. Karibu sana.
Thank you, Honorable Editor. I am disadvantaged to come to speak after a politician speaking who has made us laugh. And in a good way. I read that article. And I remember one of your conclusions was that we never expected that we could make a vehicle in Kenya and work in Kenya. The expectation of the documentation or the bureaucracy created is the vehicle should be coming from another country. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Engineer Karani from Micro and Small Enterprise Authority, in charge of infrastructure, development, technology, and innovation. I'll speak just about three things generally. First is Micro and Small Enterprise Authority is a state corporation, and I can assure you the footprints of Mheshimiwa here in that organization are still felt today. And the functions, the mandate that we implement was a brainchild that was created during the because the act was enacted in 2012 and operationalized officially between 2015 to 2018. And we largely exist to, one, regulate micro and small enterprises, two, capacity build, develop, and also look at the needs of the micro and small enterprises. I'll not go into details of the functions. We have around 16 functions, which sometimes it's hard to break them down. But one of the issues, and I appreciate Daktari, because one of our officers is now in the program, is how do we look at where we are as a country? Appreciate that this is where we are. Mheshimiwa talked about the BJ50 in Nyahururu. It grew from a work site adjacent. You supported them to get a facility adjacent, yeah? That work site still exists. The objective of that work site, like 350 to almost 500 others across the country, is to incubate ideas. It is a government facility. We support and we try to support MSCs through these facilities. That is Nyahururu work site. Around here, we have Teto, Kiawaidhanje, we have, I would say, around Nyeri, around 6 facilities, which I would say are not being optimally utilized. And that's one of the engagement and the conversation that we are having with Dr. Kagondu around how do we make the university impactful in the community that it's serving. So, in terms of infrastructure development, we have what we call constituency industrial development centers. We have now around 178 across the country, but I would say they are not optimally utilized, and we are looking in how to make them as impactful as possible across the country. The work sites, any town you think about, there is a government work site, and the initial idea was to incubate these ideas. So when you pass Kamukonji, that's a government work site, and the idea is to incubate ideas. We are using items from Bangi, Kamukonji, Ngong Road Furniture, and mention any other town, and there is a government work site which is meant to do that. Now, I'll talk about the second thing, which is partnerships, which I believe is what we need to embrace more, especially in the public sector, where there has been that tendency of operating as silos. Yeah? How do we encourage, in our own little ways, to break the barriers of bureaucracies and work as partners to support the community, to support the people that we are working with, to support the economy from a point that we have a reality at hand. This is a board. How is it that China is able to get an MDF board to Nairobi at a price lower than what Comply or the other Riply or the other manufacturers of board are doing? They are actually outcompeting the traditional carpenter by the roadside. So that traditional carpenter will no longer be able to sell their furniture because this board is getting here at a price that is lower than what the local industry is doing. The seats we are sitting on, a banquet chair, there are MSCs and SMEs in industrial area with a line that can be able to make those seats. But unfortunately, we are in a situation where that seat can land in the country at a price lower than the production cost of someone in the country. But it's things we are using. So at policy level, what are we doing at the realities and enabling partnerships such that that micro entrepreneur, that producer, that Juakali fella is supported, is uplifted to be able to compete with the person producing in China, probably with subsidized power, with subsidized opportunities. Yeah? How are we leveraging on partnerships within the government, both public and private sector, to ensure that we are able to achieve what is necessary for the economy? Finally, I'll talk about what, for me, I see the significance of the conversation we are having about futures literacy. And I'll start by saying that being cognizant of our unique challenges and our unique position is where we start. We'll talk about Internet of Things, we'll talk about artificial intelligence, we'll talk about machine learning. Yes, those are technologies, yeah? But our current reality, the boda person right on the road here, what problem are they facing? And I appreciate what Professor Gatune talked about, that when we walk into a market, there are thousands of problems to be solved. Yeah? So how do we get academia, industry, to look at these problems and try to solve them? Yeah? Let's not try to run a race of the developed nations, but we have our own problems here. Yeah? The quality of food that we are getting. When you look at a specific value chain, you'll find there are so many roadblocks that I always like reading your articles, Mheshimiwa, and you challenge the thought process that we are caged. We need to uncage ourselves. And it can only start by us acting in our own little ways. It's exciting that the policy analyst and the institution that is leading policy in this nation is here, so that we think from where we are moving forward. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Engineer Karani. And it's very important because the policies you produce are for that sector. The industrialization we are talking about is really to be affected by the hundreds of people, hundreds of companies, thousands of people actually, and hundreds of companies that are actually in that sector. I will comment briefly also a bit on what we are doing as a university in line of what Engineer Jane has said. But I said before, today we launched the share. We also launched the strategic plan, and that was Professor Atune's idea that we don't just come and launch. You have to achieve something with that launch. And what we are going to achieve today is capacity building. Now, as we move towards that, it's important for me, on behalf of the university, to recognize what NATCOM has done. It's a long process. Getting a share, I think, is a process that takes sometimes, I'm told, 2 years, minimum 2 years. And that means a lot of correspondence between ourselves, the Director General. It is not direct correspondence. You have to go through NATCOM, then you have to go through the regional office, then from there, the issues are then escalated to the so it's a very involving process. And I can say Dr. Ogoto has actually been part of that. He's here representing Dr. Evangeline Joka, but he has also been at the steering wheel to get this UNESCO share. So we really appreciate what you have actually done. And beyond that, also, he has been involved in a number of workshops that have been held by the share. It's important to say at this point, the share has been active. It's only that we have not done the official launch, but it has actually been very, very active in building capacity since even before it was actually officially established. And we signed the MOU in December 2021. So we have another 5 years, so we go up to December 2026. At that point, we'll be evaluated, and UNESCO will decide whether there is merit for us to continue holding the share, or the share should come to an end. Dr. Atune has explained the details of the UNESCO share. We struggled with the issues of, not struggling, but we went through the thought process of what do you call it, what do you focus on. And I think it's important to note that combination, socio-technical systems, because technology does not start on its own. It's a question of solving the problem of society. And whatever we are talking about is not just technology, we are talking about the people. And that is why that word, anticipatory socio-technical system, is really appropriate for what we need to do as a people, as people who are driving the capacity building efforts of ensuring that society is well prepared for the future. Of course, as we went towards that kind of name for the share, we were very much cognizant of the things that are already taking place. We talked of Industry 4.0. This Industry 4.0, of course, has changed a lot. There was Industry 4.0 before COVID-19, and there is Industry 4.0 after COVID-19. Those are two different things, because the world changed in previously unforeseeable ways. So a few people are now talking of Society 5.0, because it's not about technology anymore. It's about much bigger issues of survival, climate change, issues of biodiversity conservation, issues of moving away from fossil fuels. And these are now major issues that we have to address. So this university basically has been at the forefront of the kind of things that the UNESCO share is addressing. And that's basically to contribute to the transformation of the society, to industrialize the country, to make us, to improve the basic welfare of people, to also enable us to catch up with the rest of the world. It is not a straightforward thing. It has been tried. Governor Nyeri has shared with us. He started from IFC, working on those issues, went through being an assistant minister in government. That's a very powerful position. He has been a governor of a county where he also is implementing this. So it's a journey. It's not a straightforward journey. I don't think there is anybody who has a magic bullet. So we all have to work together. We have to continually figure out what works, what does not work, and we tinker and continue tweaking our way through until we have transformation of the society. And sometimes maybe even when it starts happening, we will not recognize that. The effort of Kenya East, and that's a very big government project, is again about achieving the same thing. We have worked with the ministry for the last, I think, 2 years now. It's only now that we are getting to the point where we actually actualize the institution. We are hoping that we should admit the first students sometime next year, around June or thereabout. But that, of course, depends on many things, including how fast the ministry moves in doing the things it's supposed to do, including appointment of councils and so on. The university is also in a very unique position. We've been working on the National Science and Technology Park. That's a national project. Science is a national project. It's a project of the Ministry of Education, the State Department for University Education and Research. And again, it's the very first time that the government is trying to establish that kind of institution. Now, science and technology parks are a very important vehicle for transformation of the country. They have been used very effectively by other countries. They have been used very much by Korea. Korea has very many science and technology parks. China picked that. It is one of the export of Singapore to China in the very early stages. The Chinese government, they should say government, because they also dealt with it at the provincial level. They started looking at that as a platform for transformation. Korea has used that, Singapore has used that, China has used that. Of course, the best known science and technology park is Silicon Valley, but it was an initiative of of a university, not so much an initiative of government. So we've been working in that space also to try to figure out the kind of structures and the human resource and the partners that we should have. And as a way of addressing that, the university has established very many centers. One center, of course, is the one I mentioned, the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship Management, and they have started working with themselves. We have the UNESCO share is also some kind of center. We have Center for Data Science, Artificial Intelligence, and all, and they are doing a fantastic job. We have Center for Energy. There are many things have been done under that. We Center for, all the things we want to talk about, artificial, machine learning, virtual control, metaverse. We have all those things. And our business is to figure out how do you get those things to contribute to transformation of the society. And we actually do that. So in the last a few months, we've also been working on a new platform, which is going to be a very important platform. And that is is also a United Nations initiative, UNECA. And that's to create a platform for bringing people who have problems and people who can solve problems together. It's really scaling up on some of the things that we have actually been doing. Somebody says, I'm in Juakari, I have this problem. I cannot grow my business because I don't know how to do this and that. Maybe just to preserve tomatoes or to harvest coffee or something like that. Whatever kind of idea someone may come up, or problem someone may come up with. Then on the other hand, you have people who can actually solve those problems. And then the people if you can solve a problem, we have a repository, a huge database. Then you try to get the two of them together. Then from there, you can very quickly move in addressing the problems of society. And not just the problems of Kenyans, but the problems of East Africa, the problem of Africa. So we are happy to be able to host the Eastern Africa Hub on that. And because of that partnership, we now have a much bigger partnership that we are having with the Equity Foundation to try to leverage the huge network of international partners. So these are really huge projects, but they all leverage on the work we are doing in the centers. They will come and work with that. So this share has helped us get those centers and those people to actually work together within the university, and to that also working with partners in the industry. And they are therefore playing a coordination role. But beyond that, one of the greatest advantages of having this kind of share is that there are 37 shares, there are the 7 shares on futures literacy. So you can imagine the kind of human resource we are now able to tap into. And these shares are spread all over the world. So we have people working in South America, Asia, Europe, the North America, and so on. So it's a very, very powerful partnership, and it's something that we are trying to leverage as we go forward. Now, I don't want to say too much about Professor Gatune. He says something about himself, but he's a specialist when it comes to foresight. And his PhD was in that area, and he has practiced it through many organizations. He used to be one of the key experts with McKinsey. So they've been working all over Africa. And I don't know whether also in US, but at least I know I'm familiar with the work that he has done in Africa through different platforms. It is that knowledge that we are actually tapping into. It is a very, very great resource for that matter. We are building the concept of the fellowship. I thought I just mentioned a little bit more about the fellowship. And I mentioned it also given that we have the Ministry of Education here. Our approach as a university is to figure out how we can leverage the expertise, not necessarily the formal structure of academics that somebody is a lecturer and so on, but it's to recognize that there are people out there who have specialist knowledge, they have unique experience that they can actually bring and enrich the community, enrich the education ecosystem. And that's one way of talking of the entrepreneurial universities that we are talking about, providing entrepreneurial education. Because you have people who have very vast experience on the practical way of doing things. We bring them to the university and they can interact with our faculty, they interact with our students, and they are therefore, you basically have almost this engagement with the community that does not have any borders. So our honorable governor is one of those people. So people, of course, ask, oh, you have given the governor a job. So, okay. Then I say to them, I just tell him, yes, he has a job now in Kimathi. He has a job in Kimathi. You will not see him on the political podium. But I think it's much bigger than that. It's a lot more complicated than that. But it's that recognition that even our political leaders, they are the ones interacting with the community. So why should we fear engaging them in the universities? I mean, that's something we have to get over. And you see the resource in them so that we can have that conversation. So I think finally, for me, this university has a history of if you look at, when you talk about foresight, and if you look at the history of this institution, it always operates with the future in mind from when it was founded. It was an issue of equipping young people in the community who did not have the benefits of formal education to prepare them for to be self-employed. And we have kept to that we are always looking at the future and asking, what do we need? If it's technology we don't have, how do we get that? How do we prepare our students for that future? So it's a good example of a foresight institution. And the ecosystem we are talking about, the STP, even the responsibility we have for Kenya, is really about the future, because Kenya is about what will happen in Kenya in another 20 years, not what's going to happen in 5 years. So we are very much, very deep in that oversight. The final thing I would like to make, and I think it was pointed out by Governor Mureithi, and there's a discussion we are having continually with Dr. Gatune, that you make the policy, but then what happens? Why do we make policies and then we are still not industrialized? I started reading about industrialization policy, I think in 1986, when I was a student in the university. And we invited then the peers for industrialization and the peers for planning. One was, I forget the name, peers for planning was, what was the name? He had a lady's name. In 80s, yes. So we had Masira from industrialization. We had, was he Wamaida or who? We are young people here. And we spent a lot of time, again, discussing this industrialization. 20 years and 5 years on, we are still talking about industrialization. So one of the things we've been asking ourselves, and I have been posing this to the chair of UNESCO chair, what do we need to do to implement these plans? And I say that because other countries have come up with plans and they've transformed themselves. So what is it that we are lacking in our system? That we plan and we think we come up with good plans, but then we don't realize those plans. I know the future literacy, there's something that, anyway, it's a question I pose to all of us. From MSEA, ourselves as a university, we are doing the same. Kenya is about transforming and modernizing Kenya. The UNESCO share is about the foresighting, and that foresighting is only meaningful if it translates to implementation and having impact on society. But there is a gap there, and I have raised it a number of times. So with those remarks, it's my great pleasure now to welcome our chief guest, basically to move to the next phase of launching the strategic plan, and after we get the remarks from our chief guest, Dr. Karanja.
Thank you very much, Professor Kioni. I'm going to read a speech for our PS, Dr. Beatrice Muganda Inyangala, who is a PS State Department for Higher Education and Research. That State Department still confuses people, but definitely initially it was State Department for University Education. Now it has changed to State Department for Higher Education and Research. In that State Department, there are two directorates. There is a Department for Higher Education that deals with the policy issues of the universities. And then there is the Directorate for Science, Technology, Science and Technology, which I belong to that Department for Research, Science and Technology, that is housed at Utalii. People are familiar with Utalii, those who used to go there to get their research permits in around 2000 and so. So she would have wished to be here, as VC has said, but she is in Rwanda pursuing some regional cooperation collaborations. So the Vice Chancellor of Dedan Kimathi University of Technology, Professor Kioni, Deputy Vice Chancellors of Dedan Kimathi University of Technology, members of the Dedan Kimathi University of Technology Senate, distinguished guests, students, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. It is with great pleasure that I join you on this occasion as Dedan Kimathi University of Technology launches the DeKUT UNESCO Chair in Anticipatory Social Systems. I wish to congratulate the university on this achievement. Ladies and gentlemen, the world is rapidly changing and technologies are evolving at a fast pace. Industries are embracing technologies which are making work much more efficient. New jobs are being created while old ones are being rendered obsolete or in need of revision. As a country and as a people, it is important that we stay ahead of the technology shift. Ladies and gentlemen, Kenya has been at the forefront of digital transformation, not only in the region, but also in the world. The M-Pesa app that saw the transformation of how we send and receive money in the country was an idea that was born in Kenya by a Kenyan innovator. The money transfer technology was one of its kind and put the country on the global platform in digital transformation. That being said, we cannot slow down now that the world digital transformation by the COVID pandemic. Now, more than before, we need people who are able to anticipate change and future technology transformation in order to influence policy and decision-making to aid economic and industrial transformation of the country. Ladies and gentlemen, history has shown that the key driver for economic transformation for any country is manufacturing. As a country, Kenya has captured this in its Vision 2030 and the Big Four agenda that captures manufacturing as one of the 4 pillars of development of the country. Through this blueprint, the government will raise the manufacturing sector contribution to the GDP from the 8.5% to 15%, improve ease of doing business, create 1 million jobs in this sector, and achieve 5 times increase in FDI inflows from USD 672 million to USD 3.8 billion. So, future literacy is key to facilitating this agenda. This is because there is need to anticipate the skills that will be relevant to the manufacturing industry going into the future. Therefore, for the country to educate and train its youth with relevant skills is key, and this chair will contribute greatly to guiding the nation through DeKUT UNESCO through this process. I am informed that already the chair has been busy delivering various projects, key among them being capacity building, workshops like reimagining innovation, done in conjunction with AfricaRICS and with financial support from NATCOM, and research such as Southern African Development Corporation. So industrialization features, where the chair supported the South Africa Institute of International Affairs to develop a thought piece on industrialization strategy for the SADC region in light of the fourth industrial revolution. This involved identifying key drivers and trends, developing industrialization scenarios, and providing recommendations. These recommendations were presented at the 2021 annual summit of SADC and Imagining Nigeria features, where the chair supported Nigeria to develop a longer-term vision and a project by UNDP Nigeria. This has involved in-depth research on various challenges and opportunities, identifying key drivers and trends, modeling potential scenarios, and providing recommendations. This was done in collaboration with the Office of the Vice President of Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, the Dedan Kimathi University of Technology is hosting the UNESCO Anticipatory Chair in Socio-Technical Systems is a great milestone. This university, being a leader in technological education and innovation, is well placed to lead the agenda. The university focuses on STEM programs, and its focus for an innovation and entrepreneurship among its staff and students is visionary. The university has established systems and facilities to enable a robust environment to support anticipatory socio-technical systems. Already in operation is the DeKUT Startup Center, DeKUT Incubation Hub, DHub, and the Dedan Kimathi Science and Technology Park, DEST Park. All these facilities, plus the public-private partnerships that the university has entered into within this framework, provide a very enabling environment. The Ministry of Education will support the university where needed to ensure that this chair is successful. I wish to congratulate the university and its partners for this milestone. I wish you all the best. Yeah, that's the speech from the Principal Secretary, Dr. Beatrice. But also as a person who is interested in what is going on in this discourse, I must congratulate the university for, I think, getting another jewel under your many jewels that you have pointed out. And I want to challenge the other members of the university that Professor Kioni here is standing tall in our boardrooms there in the Ministry of Education. Yesterday when I got a call, it was around 9, and the person who was calling asked me, you should go to DeKUT tomorrow at 10. I'm sure you know I'm sure you know the Vice Chancellor. That's what he said. I'm sure you know the Vice Chancellor. Of course, I've never met Professor Kioni, but wherever we are in boardrooms, the discussion around Professor Kioni is always on the table because of leading this university so well. And of course, now we can also see other supporters like Professor Gatune there. And in a way, we are impressed because, as we have just said, I think there is more to education. Education is not only imparting it in classrooms, we also need to take it further. Of course, Prof has already outlined most of the things that I'm familiar with from the Directorate of Research Science and Technology, because I think we are the ones who are supervising those projects. And we are really impressed. And we want to challenge, of course, all the other members of this university to take the challenge and come forward, display all your abilities, your innovations, so that at least this university can come out as people have challenged. It needs to come out. And when I say coming out, we need to start thinking about other avenues. Like today, there's a mention of, is it DeKUT? Yeah, DeKUT. I'm hearing it for the first time here. The other day, we were involved in trying to look for someone who would create for us an LMS and a website for the new kid on the block. Of course, it's not a new kid, but he's almost coming in, and I'm heavily involved in this. And I want to challenge at least those avenues to come out, because you see, once, instead of us thinking only on one area, we also need to see others coming up from that quarters. And now onto that aspect also, because I know this is where DeKUT also can make a clear impact. If you have been able to collaborate and partner with KAIST, or rather start KAIST, there is now the Open University of Kenya, which is modeled to operate on technology. This is something that I challenge Professor Gatune and Professor Mushiri. We are now on top of things. UNESCO is heavily involved, Daktari. Actually, you have one expert from UNESCO called Simon Wanda, a program specialist who has been guiding the process. So what we're saying, DeKUT needs also to come out in this avenue. Because you see, if this university will be leveraged on technology, then DeKUT should not be missing in the map. I heard you talking about cybersecurity, data science. By the way, those are among the 8 programs that are being worked on to start, the initial starting of the Open University of Kenya. And it's not coming as a competitor. I want to clarify this. And I know Prof has already had this discourse many times with the other vice chancellors. The Open University of Kenya is just a child for everybody to keep on nurturing and a partner. Because in a way, this is just coming to fill in a gap that is very open. We cannot keep on talking about the graduate population of this country being 3.5% at this time when we are competing with Nigeria, as you said, Egypt, and the others. We need to reach those places where the conventional universities have not been able to reach. Of course, we shall leverage on technology, which now DeKUT is talking about as a master in this area. So I want to challenge, and I think I put this to Professor Mushiri and Professor Gatune. We are in that process whereby we are still trying to discuss the establishment. Actually, today in the evening, we shall be having a meeting of the committee of experts that have been chosen to try and establish. And I want to challenge DeKUT to also send in proposals of partnership and collaborations with the OUK, so that you can also come in. We don't only want to see one side of participants when we are leaving a very important university from here. And as I also challenge the university, I also want to challenge the scholars in the university, because I'm heavily involved in the program development. But after putting out a call for expression of interest for program writers and module writers, I did not come across any that was talking about DeKUT. And you see now, if you're talking about launching programs in cybersecurity, data science, educational technology, agriculture and food systems, learning designs, and so on and so forth. Is it justice for DeKUT to miss in this table? It's not justice, right? So that's my challenge to you. I know that our peers, having come from the policy, environment, and research, is very much interested. Actually, I was taking notes here, and I know when she comes back, she'll call me and point out one or two, three issues. So maybe I also need to call Prof and others to add in, including Governor here. What did you say about this? So basically, that's very important because we can leverage on this and now move this problem that Prof has highlighted here about why our policy on shelves and all that. Of course, through the KIPRA, I think we need to act more on that area. The policy actors, the policy implementers and all that, I think we need to be challenged and, of course, work towards this. Otherwise, ladies and gentlemen, I want to celebrate this launch and appreciate what this great university is doing. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Karanja, for representing the PS and delivering the speech. That was well represented. The PS was well represented. We appreciate. So we are going to move to the next session where we are going to launch the UNESCO Chair Anticipatory Socio-Technical System Strategic Plan. Will be led by Dr. Joel. I think I'm told by Professor Gatune, you'll be there. Together with Professor Gatune, they will guide us on that. Prof.
Yeah. So basically, I wanted to say, as I mentioned in my presentation, we have come up with a strategic plan over the period, basically on those areas that we want to build, and we have certain targets that we want to meet in terms of building the capacity, building community of practice, spreading futures literacy, and so on. And this we were supported very, very much by the Kenya National Commission for UNESCO, and that's why I wanted to come here, say something a bit about going forward as we build this practice and we build this area, and also probably we can also maybe we should have the governor come and do the cutting, please. You are the first fellow. Yes, yes, but we'll get a few people here. It's a party.
It's a party. Our chief guest, the governor, the vice chancellor, the three of us, the three of you, and the CEO KIPRA, please come. We'll get all of us cut and have the launch. Really, the strategic plan, when we were doing it, really, we said that this strategic plan for the chair has to be in line with the strategic plan of the university. And we achieved that. So then, and all strategic plans really have the vision, the mission, the activities, the strategies, the strategic objectives, and the activities that the chair will be doing the next 4 years, because the UNESCO will come and ask the chair, what have you done for the community, for the Kenyan people in the last 4 years? And I believe the strategic plan answers all those questions. So it's up to the chair, ladies and gentlemen, to ensure that he really does what the strategic plan is saying. And we are very happy that the chief guest is here, and with the vice chancellor. The chair will not succeed if he has no support from the university management. And for sure, the chair is not given to Dr. Gatune. It is given to the university under the leadership of the Vice Chancellor, Professor Kioni. And you see, there is already a lot of support. And that is what UNESCO wants. because it gives the chair to the university to impact the community, to address sustainable development issues. So I think, Dr. Gatune, the strategic plan should be brought, and then all our guests will really launch it. I know you have already started implementing it, but it is better late than never. Thank you. That's what I wanted to say. Yeah, asante sana. So wapi strategic plan alafu sasa na ile makasi with the PS and the governor and the vice chancellor, like that, and then he will hand it over to the chair, to the vice chancellor first, and then the vice chancellor will and you hand it over to the vice chancellor. Beautiful. Then now the vice chancellor will hand over the strategic plan to the chair. Yes, please. After he has received it, he must work closely with all the policy analysts led by our chief policy analyst here, with the CEO, Dr. Ngugi, the CEO of KIPRA, and the entire team. Then please, take a photo now with the CEO of KIPRA. A great partnership. We believe in partnership. Another photo with the governor, the fella. I didn't know, because when we went to school, we used teachers used to say, you fella, and for sure, in the university language, it's not that bad fella. This is a great fella that the chair will be using going forward. And then I'll also take a photo with the chair, Professor Gatune. I know our CEO, Dr. Evangeline Njoka, is very much in support. We have committed, even in our own strategic plan, which ends next year, that will completely support this chair. When the Vice Chancellor succeeds, when Dr. Gatune succeeds, we also succeed. Because it's all about Wanjiku. We are not here because of ourselves. We are here because of that person out there under the bottom-up transformation agenda we refer to as the ASLA. We have to transform our people out there because the suffering has been there for too long. Thank you very much. Thank you, Governor.
Yes. The chief guest.
Yes. Yeah.
Exactly. So when you come back, we'll say that you ask us, what are we doing for society?
Yes.
One of the things we'll explain is that we are assisting governments to be more effective.
Absolutely.
So this project management program is available, tailor-made for counties, but also for national government departments, so that the officers in those departments can execute the budgets in a more efficient and transformative manner. We will invite you later in the month in Nairobi, when we have a 2-day primer available for county secretaries and other officers from counties, but also available for project management-based national entities like the water companies, like the water agencies, like the road agencies, and so on. And in the afternoon, we'll tell you a little bit more with DeKUT about how we are transforming Sagak Tech and other small engineering businesses to become national and global. And I agree, there can be no better hustler story than finding an informal micro and assisting it to become a technology-based production system that and is innovative. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We may be seated. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much. We are coming to the close of our morning session. So after this, we will do a group photograph. Those of us who are familiar with our photo area, we will do it at outside the resource tree, where we have the terrace, but we will be guided. After that, we will have lunch at Nyeri Dome. Nyeri Dome is just one floor on the other wing, but we will guide you because we'll be there so that you don't get lost. Yeah. But our fella know the area better. So Faith Model, you guide us for the photo session. Yeah.
So you follow me to Resource Center 3. Follow the yellow sweater.
How are you? Good.
You're in Broadway doing a show filming of music, right?
We're just lip syncing.
Sitaki kubakia wa biashara.